Okay, so it looks like we are now recording. Wonderful. My name is Maylee Brown, and I'm with Intercultures. I serve as Director of Global Network Communications at Intercultures. We're a global consultancy offering training, coaching, consulting for people that are looking to manage the global complexity of working across the world. Speaking of across the world, we have people from all over today. Just on the large screen here, we have Masako Kato, who is calling from the Netherlands. Also presented, hello there. Also presented, we have Paulo Santos, who is on your bottom right, or your top right, rather. And Paulo Santos is our guest speaker for today, calling in from Spain. We have others calling in from Portugal, from China, from Germany, and elsewhere. Some others may join us in the course of our webinar today, but for the purposes of respecting time, we will begin just now. On your screen, you should see the presentation, Leading Intercultural Change from the Top Down. This is one of our webinars hosted by Intercultures, and facilitated by me with our guest speaker again from Daimler, Paulo Santos. So introductions and expectations. Before we get started, what can we expect? And who again is on the line? Hello and welcome to who has just joined us. Who's just joined us on the line?
It's Karina.
Karina, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Maylee. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, or good to hear you as well, Karina. We have just started our time. Karina is calling in from Brazil.
Exactly.
As you know, Karina, or as you may not know, Paulo Santos, our guest speaker, is originally from Portugal, and he says that he has a connection with you and that you can speak Portuguese, maybe Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese Portuguese.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia, Paulo.
Olá. Muito bem. Muito prazer.
Prazer é meu.
To introduce our guest speaker, we have Paulo Santos, as you can see on the large screen. And Paulo is working from Madrid as a project manager for change management processes for the Daimler Group, for Daimler Group services. We first met in the United States on a program that he was running there and that I was facilitating. And he travels, every regular interval from country to country to manage these change processes across the organization. Paulo has over 20 years in multinational companies, working 8 years specifically with Daimler. He has expertise specifically in project and change management as well as cost control. You're speaking 6 languages, Paulo?
Well, I don't speak 6. I mean, I speak a couple of them, and I know a little bit of a few others.
Little bit of a few others.
Okay. No, that's too much, Maylee. I just speak a couple of them.
Just a couple of them. Okay. A couple of them, and then some others. We have Portuguese, English, some Spanish, French, Italian, and some German.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So originally from Portugal, you're living in Madrid with your wife and your children, and since 2015, as I understand, you've been project manager for the migration of the accounting activities for Mercedes-Benz USA to the shared service center of Daimler in the Philippines.
Correct.
Managing 14 people in that change process.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And it looks like also you're coming up on your 8-year anniversary with Daimler, so congratulations to you.
That's right. That will be soon. Absolutely.
Sure. So thank you again for joining us with all of your expertise and experience and charisma. Yes. I'll introduce myself as well. My name is Maylee Brown. For those of us who have not met already, I work with Intercultures as Director of Global Network Communications, and this is one of my responsibilities to share our globality with you and help spread the resource of what we can learn coming together across cultures and across nations. I have about 10 years experience in for-profit and nonprofit sectors, expertise in culture general and U.S.-specific intercultural competence development, specifically training work, and have traveled to about 18 countries so far in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. I'm looking forward to returning to Germany next year in February for the CIETAR conference in Bonn, Germany. For those of you who are not familiar, CIETAR is the Society for Intercultural Education, Training, and Research, and Intercultures visits annually to both the CIETAR Germany and CIETAR Europa conferences as a player in the field, as a leading player in the field. As you can see, my education is in intercultural management and international relations. And really, though, the education that I've gotten that serves me most is that in the field. So in working with Paulo and his team some months ago, and in working in my role with Intercultures and in colleague with you, some of our callers, has been my best education. We want to share some of that personal expertise as well in our call today. So please do feel welcomed to share what you have to share, your own experiences. This is conversational. So yes, we have some presentations planned, but again, we're trying to engage you and make this webinar most worthwhile for you and your context. As you know, this webinar is being recorded, and a recording will be made available after our time together today. Questions before we move forward? All right, and again, if you'd like to share something without your voice, you can do so on the chat box, which is on the top right of your screen. It may be elsewhere if you're calling it from an iPad. All right. So our interrelated topics here today are leadership, change management, organizational culture, organizational change. These are very large topics. We have a large swath, if you will, to cover, but we're only looking at particular examples. One that actually Paulo has to share with us from Daimler, working with Intercultures on this change management process that I just described as his current role. Paulo, what is change management? Let's start there.
Okay, hello everybody. I can speak about change management in the context of the projects that I have been doing. And for us, and as I said, in the context of our work, change management is to have a systematic approach to understanding when you come to an organization and you start a new project. You have to understand which are the specific targets, which are the specific activities, which are the deliverables you expect in terms of what is going to be the organization once you complete the project. And to have a systematic approach to all of this is what we call change management.
All right, easy breezy, right? Simple.
No, it's not. It's not.
No, it's not at all. We'll leave leadership for some discussion later, but very simply put, if I were just to touch on quickly organizational culture rather than organizational change. Organizational culture is how we get things done within the context of an organization, right? It's the set of beliefs, values, behaviors, assumptions belong to that group of people and help the organization function, if you will, right? And so change, much like Paulo described, is going to be an overall organizational change. And that's similar to how I'm describing intercultural change, which is the title of this webinar. Being that it starts maybe with an individual, but it certainly spreads progressively throughout the organization. And intercultural change being the idea that intercultural competence development is progressing, is increasing throughout the organization, is integrated into the process, right? If we know how to get things done, right? If we know that culture is the conduit, is the vessel through which we get things done, we can not only increase intercultural competence, but implement successfully other change measures as well. So let's talk about measuring change, because people want to know really, how do we know whether it's change or not? So first question for you, Paulo, how is it that you measure success of change management process? And how do we know that change is happening, or whether there was just a great project here in this one country? Right. How do you measure it?
Okay, just to set us exactly, to understand a little bit what I'm going to say, the projects that we are doing, they always have a huge impact in the organization, because basically what we are doing is, Daimler set up the strategic objective about 1 decade ago to create a network of shared service centers globally to do the accounting services for the different sales organizations. And by the nature of this project, it has a huge impact on the organization. So we come, and there's an organization before we arrive and an organization when we leave. In the middle, there's a lot of hard facts and soft facts like emotions, frustration, whatever. And it was very important for us to create then the systematic also to support the country to go through the different phases of the project and to minimize the impact. So in order to answer your question, I mean, there are hard facts and soft facts to measure the success of change management. And the hard fact is, of course, in this kind of projects that we are doing, we set up very clear and specific objectives when we start a project. And I would say that if you come to the end of the project, you have achieved your deliverables in terms of what you wanted to achieve, you are within your budget, and you managed to run your project with the resources you had, then in terms of success, you can measure it that way. But there is also the soft facts, which is, I mean, what we try is that in the end of the project, the retained organization which stays is motivated, is feeling confident with the organization as it is in the end. And I think that this is also one way to measure if, in terms of change management, we were successful or not.
Okay, thank you for that. And if you think that this sounds complicated, I'll just give you a little bit more context on Daimler as well. And hello and welcome to Michelle from Zalando. I see that you joined us several minutes ago. How are you? All right. So just again, to give you some context about the organization within which this has happened and what Paulo has described, Daimler Group is a brand that includes many products, including Mercedes-Benz, Mercedes-AMG, Mercedes-Maybach, Freightliner, Benz, Smart, Daimler Truck Financial, among others. This is a company with a total revenue of euro 129 billion in the 2014 fiscal year. Daimler has 280 employees. That's a fact as of December of 2014. Headquartered in Stuttgart, Germany, and nearly in every country of the world, according to their website. English is the official language of this organization, and it's owned by not only European but U.S. and other international investors. According to the website, Daimler is, let's see, the history of the automobile began in 1886 with Daimler's first motor carriage and Carl Benz's three-wheeled vehicle, right? So there's a strong history there, a proud history there, and over the years, as you can see, this company has grown financially, geographically, and in terms of personnel as well. So that's the context within which this change management is happening that Paulo has described.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another question for you. How is it that measuring success for intercultural change processes is different or not?
Well, I mean, you know, what we did is, from the beginning, because we understood that we were going to be working with people from different cultures, different languages, different backgrounds, whatever, we put the change management as a very important work package within any project. So there is one work package that is dedicated only, as I said, to define specific tools and targets and deliverables in terms of what we want to get for change management during the project. And because we knew we were going to have to deal with people from different cultures, we decided that it was important to have this cultural training. But the interesting thing is that we saw it first as an opportunity, because at some point in the project we have a huge team from people from different locations in one same place working together for a couple of months. Right. So we said, no, we need to have some activity here which we are going to use as a kind of icebreaker to help the people to know each other and to start working together. Right. And the interesting thing is that this cultural training, which you were leading in the US for us, has become something bigger. And we saw that this is not only an icebreaker, but it is also a very good team building exercise. Because typically the people, they meet each other one day there in the training, and the next day they start working together, and it looks like they've been working already for some time, because this cultural awareness to understand the different backgrounds, the different practices, all of these that the people have when they have to work together, was an absolute success. So I would say that the cultural training and the cultural awareness is a very important aspect of change management. and the results always of doing these workshops exceeded our expectations. So to answer your question, so it's absolutely true. To measure the intercultural training is part of the change process, the change management process, and they go together. So if the intercultural training is successful, this will be very important to achieve what we want in terms of change management.
Right, right. Thank you. And we also know through experience that the intercultural piece, the intercultural competence piece, is most successful when it's ingrained, as it has been here with the change management package, right? Into what you're doing. It can't simply be an add-on or a day or an initiative. It has to be a part of the bottom line, whatever may be the bottom line for your organization. These are trainings that Paulo, again, has done in partnership, or Daimler has done in partnership with Intercultures. We met on one such of these trainings, and he'll describe this particular instance in just a moment. But before that, we have one more question for you about measuring change, and that's about distinguishing between local one-time change and growing organizational change. How do we know that whether it's an anomaly that is happening here, or is it something that's reverberating throughout the organization?
Well, I mean, again, in the context of what I've been doing, it was defined as a very important part of any project that we do. So there is a systematic here in terms of the approach we have for change management. So, and we see it as an important part to achieve the success in the project. So in the growth of the organization, and this is where I would distinguish this from one situation where, for a specific reason and for a specific context, you have to work on change aspects or change topics. So I think that this would be the difference. If you have a systematic to approach change management, then I would say that this is an organizational setup different from a one-time change approach. I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah. Well, I see what you're saying, that it has to be an organizational-wide structure, right?
Correct.
Implementing an architecture for it across the organization, and not simply in this situation or that situation.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Hello and welcome, whoever has just joined us in the last several minutes. If you have any questions, please do feel free to welcome to speak up. There is also a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. You can see it along the top. If you have an iPad, it may be in a different place. You're welcome to chat directly with me as Intercultures, your presenter, or directly with Paulo or other participants as you like. We do encourage you to chat with everyone. That is your first option on the chat bar. But just now we'll move on to Daimler and Intercultures. And so as I promised earlier, we want to learn more about what happened or what is happening still between Daimler and Intercultures. There are some articles on our website and our news blog at www.intercultures.de, bit of a commercial there, that share a little bit about what we've done in these change processes with Daimler over the last couple of years. But Paulo, in your experience, can you please give us some, this example between Daimler and Intercultures? How have we worked together in the past few years and continue to work together?
I mean, as I said before, the experience has been quite good in the aspect that the result was always better than what we had originally planned. As I said, when we started these projects around 10 years ago, that's when we started, we didn't have this systematic approach to change management. At the time, just a moment, please. At the time, we were just starting the projects, and we realized that these projects, as I said before, they create a lot of emotion in the countries when we arrive, and then we started to think that we had to have a more systematic approach to the whole thing. So we first, at least from my personal experience, we first partnered with Intercultures when we did when we started the migration of the Asia Pacific countries, because what happens was we created a shared service center in the Philippines, and this was the first time where we had people from all over the world getting together in a project.
Okay.
So the Asia Pacific region for us includes Australia, includes Japan, includes South Africa. And we had people from Madrid supporting the projects. We had people from Germany. So certainly we were working in a context where we had people from all over the world working together. And we said, no, we have to have a more systematic approach to this whole thing. And that's when we started to partner with Intercultures and having this workshop at a very early stage of the project. And as I said, this proved to be a really successful experience so far.
Okay, so far we've made the goal, as you can see on your screen. So far, so good. All right. Thank you so much for that brief summary before we go forward. So, leading intercultural change. As I mentioned earlier, culture is this conduit through which anything happens within an organization, and hopefully anything successful happens within an organization, or anything negative as well, as you must have experienced. This webinar was promoted a bit on LinkedIn, and some of the groups there seemed to be having conversations that touched upon the topics that we're touching upon today. One group is called Organizational Culture Change Agents. I'm a member of this group, and I find interest in the conversations that are happening there. There was one post recently.
Also, nein, will das nicht. Also, es kann sein, ich glaube nicht, dass es keine Gründe. Ich glaube, aber ich kann auch seine Punkte. Manchmal sehen Menschen aber ich glaube nicht, dass das ist.
We'll continue audio in
sorry, Maili.
Yes, Paulo.
There's somebody speaking German, and I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm aware. Thank you. And I think that we can all hear, but she may not be able to hear us. I've written her a few messages, so thank you.
Okay, I can hear you again.
So, as I was saying, one of these groups, the Organizational Culture Change Agent group through LinkedIn, there's a recent discussion about why culture is a major success factor to M&As, to mergers and acquisitions. And the speaker in the webinar that was attached to that discussion said it's because culture, quote, characterizes how a company gets things done. So whether it's a merger and acquisition or some other major or incremental change within your organization, we really have to recognize the way the culture of that organization plays a part in how we get things done, right? When we lead intercultural change, this is, of course, a grounding assumption that we work with at Intercultures and that we encourage others to work with as well to make it sustainable. Let's move on to business rationale, and here's another question for you all as well. Business rationale, how does change management and leading intercultural change in particular support strategy and target of the business? So I read there is no specific vision or mission on the Daimler site that I could find, but there's certainly information about meeting certain business targets and becoming the best in the world and having a quality product. How is it that this kind of investment supports that business rationale or that business bottom line?
I mean, yeah, if you think about it, we have some values in the company. I mean, we want to be very efficient in the way that we work, and you know, this strategy to create the shared service center network is within this strategic value, because we gain huge efficiencies in terms of the working processes, the working models, in terms of the labor arbitrage. I mean, there are several reasons why we become more efficient by having this network of shared service centers. So I would say that there are some values in the company which are very strong for us. And what we try to do is, when we create these projects and when we go through the different change management phases within the project, we try to have in consideration these strong values that we have, and make sure, for example, that another value we have in the company is that we want the people to feel comfortable and to feel motivated and happy to work at Daimler. And we know that these projects, they have a huge impact in the beginning in terms of the motivation of the people, in terms of their anxiety, in terms of their instability for the future, etc. So this is why we are so much focused in change management, to make sure that we make the necessary steps in terms of communication, in terms of involving the people in transparency and etc., so that we minimize the impact in terms of these instability factors, and we come to the end of the project and making sure that the people feel as comfortable, as motivated as possible within the new organization that they are going to have. So I would say that there are values that we live by, and we try that all the activities we do within the projects take into consideration the values of the company.
So what about those people that say, you know what, all this feeling stuff, that's just, that's just soft. And we're here to carry out the hard objectives of the business. What do you say to that critique?
Sorry, I couldn't understand it, Miley. There's a lot of interference. Can you repeat again?
Yes, I'm sorry about the interference there. So what do you say to people who might respond to what you've shared by saying, this sounds all nice and good and warm and fuzzy, but these are soft aims, and we're really looking to, create hard business objectives. Does the way that people feel really matter in the context of creating success?
Absolutely, it does. I mean, because, with the experience we had over these 10 years already of implementing the project, we know we had different kinds of situations, different approaches to the project, even from the management within each organization. But, finally, throughout the project, we always managed to create a working model which allows that the people feel open to come and express their feelings, their frustrations, whatever. And what we try to explain to them, which is true, is that within all the projects we did so far, when we come to the end of the project and there is a retained organization, this organization is usually more efficient and better working, and the people are feeling are feeling happier about their work. Because one of the consequences of this project is that in most of the cases, there is an internal reorganization within the company, and it means that the people in the end are doing a different kind of job, which is more interesting. Of course, in the beginning, they are frustrated because they don't know exactly what is going to be the impact of the project for them. And we try to address to them these positive messages and be honest with them, because the fact is that so far, with over 16 migrations done, we didn't have any situation where somebody was absolutely unhappy with what he or she was doing afterwards, So, I mean, that's the way I think that we are supporting the organization to be happy and to be Hello?
Yes, we lost you for a moment. This is how we're supporting the organization to be happy and
to achieve the objectives that they want, and that the people really are feeling good about their work. This is, this is the ultimate goal we have in terms of change management in every project. Right. Is that in the end the people are happy with what they are doing.
Yes, yeah. We're working on an article right now for our Intercultures newsletter that comes in January with a company also based in Germany, also that works on a very technical level with a lot of engineers. And one thing that stood out was united by passion, which is their motto, right? Which is a very emotional, if you will, very people-centered ethic that ties people together from across the dozen or so organizations within which they work, united by passion. Another grounding assumption is that we're not just working with these unanimated organizations. We're working with people that are the fiber of these organizations. People make organizations work, yeah? And so we need to work at the people level to get things done, right? Another question for you on business rationale, and for others that have questions, please do feel free to jump in or have a different insights to share. In what ways are you implicit and explicit? So, or explicit and implicit as the screen is more direct and more indirect about the what, the why, the how of change processes, and why. So, and how much are you really stating this is what we're doing for this purpose, or is it part of the background, if you will, the backstage of what you're doing?
Well, that's an interesting question, because what happens is, of course, for the success of this project, it's very important the engagement of the local leadership. And what happens is that finally the decision of what has to be explicitly or implicitly communicated to the team is a decision from the local management. Of course, we support them in what they need. We even advise them, because we have a change management toolbox based on all the experiences we had so far, and we advise about which steps and which kind of communication should be done at each moment of the project. Because there are, as you said, there is a lot of emotion, and you have to deal with all of this. And believe me that these projects, they generate a lot of emotion when we arrive in every market. So to answer your question, I had different situations. I had one example, I'm not going to specify which, where the local management decided to make very little communication to the team, and this created, of course, a lot of anxiety, but there was a reason behind it, and everybody only understood it in the end, why they were doing this, and it worked. So although there was a lot of anxiety, there was a reason why they wanted to do this. And we had another example where there was absolute transparency, complete communication, regular meetings between the local management and the team to explain to them what was expected from the project, what was going to be the result after the project, and it also worked. So I would say that this has more to do with the management style of the local organization than with the project itself. You understand?
I understand. Yes, that's a good point. That is a good point there. We have a couple of questions as well about cost, but I think that the overarching question here, so just in consideration of time, the overarching question here is, what is the cost of acting, and what is the cost of not acting?
Well, I mean, we had different results in projects. I would say that the critical success factor is management involvement. We had a situation where the management was not at all involved in the project. They were giving the wrong messages to the team, and that made the project much, much more difficult. And we are not talking here so much about cost, but about the result of the project. And on the other side, I had a project where I had an incredible engagement from the top management from the beginning. They were participating in any discussions we wanted to have about the project. They were giving the right messages to the organization, and this had a very strong contribution to the success of the project. So definitely management buyout is very, very important. Now, in terms of the cost itself, I mean, as I said, change management is a very important work package within the project. So there are efforts, there are costs related with how much effort the people are putting into these activities, but I would say that they are marginal if we consider the overall cost of a project. And then we have the intercultural training, which is also a cost we have, but they are really not significant if you think about the result. So I would say that it's a worse exercise. It's worth doing it, because the benefits are much, much higher than the cost you can have with it.
So I heard you say that it's a worthwhile exercise.
Exactly, a worthwhile exercise.
Gotcha.
Sorry for my English.
No, sorry for my English. We're speaking, as we like to say, globish at Interculture. So Karina knows about this as well. We're speaking globish, that from all these countries, if we're speaking English, we have different ways of using language and pronouncing language. So we like to use globish, yes. And then final question for you on leadership as we segue into questions or comments that we have from our globish speaking participants today. How is it that intercultural change processes especially prepare leadership competencies? So you talked about having management buy-in, right? But we know that there is a difference between who is management and who is leadership, right? They're not necessarily one and the same. Right. How is it that, there is another article that I read recently that talked about how we're not training our managers soon enough, that the average in this particular study, which may have been US-centric, was the average age of training people as managers for leadership competencies was at about age 40 or 41, that was too late, and we needed to do it sooner. With these intercultural change processes within organizations, how are people prepared for leadership or prepared to continue leading in their roles?
Well, I mean, I think that here it's important to understand that, you know, in the context where we are working now these days, as I said, I mean, typically in a project we have people from 20 different nationalities, and I think that the perception from the leaders of the importance to understand what are the cultural differences, why the people have different approaches to working within the same situation, whatever. And to put them, I'm talking here about specifically the cultural awareness training. You know, you put the management inside one of these sessions. They understand that they have people from different places, and they have to understand that more and more they have to work in an intercultural context. And I think that in this sense, this is preparing them. We are creating a trend here to make the leaders understand that in the future, the situation is going to be more and more that whatever team they have to work with, it's going to have people from different cultures, with different ideas, with different backgrounds, whatever. And in that sense, I think that this is very important in terms of preparation for them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. I would agree with that. You know, I think that, you know, leadership, right, and intercultural competence development are both journeys that we take. Yeah, they change, they evolve, they shift based on the cultures with which we're working and based on our own competencies over time. So definitely to see that added benefit of implementing change processes, which are at the heart, intercultural change processes, is a success for the organization, is another benefit to the cost that you already explained as marginal. Marginal to the benefit. Questions and consultations. So now is the time for the people from wherever you're sitting to ask any open questions that you have on what you've heard, on what you, some experience that you've had that you've brought with you to this webinar. We have people calling in again from the Netherlands, I'm just looking at our faces here, from Brazil, from Germany, from China, from Australia, I believe, among others. What are your questions? We're working in a variety of organizations here with different languages and bottom lines. What do you have to share about your experiences in terms of leading intercultural change or leading change in your organizations, or any questions that you might have to ask at this point? So I have a question here in the chat box. You're welcome to chat your questions as well. The question here is, Paulo, you said that the ultimate goal of your change process is that everyone in the organization is quote unquote happy about the work they are doing. How challenging was it to get management buy-in with this proposition? And were people skeptical at first, or was the value of happiness at work easily understood? So again, Paulo, I'll repeat. First question, how challenging was it to get management buy-in with this proposition that you described? And two, were people skeptical at first, or was the value of happiness at work easily understood?
Well, I would say that in the beginning of the project, everybody within the local organization is very skeptical. I mean, because, as I said, these projects, they have a huge impact in the organizations. And in the beginning, they are all very skeptical. Now, what happens was the management buy-in is something that has to do more with the general attitude. This is what I learned from experience, the general attitude towards work from the management itself. Because you have managers who understand that we live in a very large company where change is happening all the time. They understand that there are strategic decisions that are taken by the headquarters that they have to live along with, not only to live along with, but that they easily accept, and they try to prepare their organization for it. And these leaders are usually the ones who get very easily engaged with the project. Of course, there are also, I would say there is an intermediate situation where some leaders in the beginning are skeptical, but as they understand that, I mean, we have an experience of 10 years, they understand that we know what we are coming to do, and they get that level of confidence that we really know how to do this kind of projects. Through the time, we managed to buy them into the project. And I also had the situations, as I said, where from the beginning to the end of the project, the people were just against it. And they were even verbalizing very openly that they were against the project, and we never managed to buy them in. Now, the thing is that if we go from the management to the working level, as I said, whenever there is management buy-in, and they give the right communication to their teams, the people very easily get into the project because they understand that their management support the project. And in those cases where we don't have managed buy-in, we have to work more on an operational level with the people who are on the ground doing their tasks every day in order to support ourselves that they reduce their level of uncertainty and anxiety. So, I mean, the end, as I said, the goal is the same. We want to leave the project with the people having confidence that what they are doing is interesting and they are happy in the company. And sometimes we have to work more on the working level, and sometimes more on the management level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks for making that differentiation. Three things before we go forward. One, we're just at the official end time of our webinar. If you do need to log off, we understand. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you're able to stay on for a few minutes more, we're glad to have you. Paulo can stay with us for a few minutes. We've already scheduled. And two, we've gotten a greeting in from India. So one of the people that was supposed to call in today could not because of a power outage. I'm reading from her email here. In monsoon-drenched Chennai in southern India. So she sends Diwali celebration greetings from India. This is an important Hindu festival. She sends a very joyous Diwali to us all. Also, we have another question on the chat box here. The importance of organizational culture was discussed. The importance of organizational culture was discussed. How do you work with organizational culture? If we were going to define organizational culture, it's the way that we do things within the context of an organization, right? So maybe we're working with a multinational corporation, and that there is a culture to it, an umbrella culture to that organization, right? But certainly there's a culture to it in the Philippines, a culture to it in Japan, a culture to it in the States, in Germany, etc., right? And it's the way that things get done within that organizational context, the assumptions, values, beliefs, behaviors that measure success or mean success within those contexts. So if we're working with organizational culture, how do we consider those things? How do we work with it where it is? And others are welcome as well to speak up if you'd like and share how is it that you work with your organizational culture when you're trying to get things done, especially when the change that you're trying to implement maybe goes against the grain, so to speak, or has some constraints or some challenges within what you're trying to do. How do we all work with organizational culture?
I mean, yeah, as I said, you're right, we don't have a mission statement in Daimler, but we have some very strong values which everybody tries to live by, and this is something that everybody within the company tries to live by. And what we try to do is that, I mean, every action we do has in consideration what are the values of the company, and these change processes are extremely complicated. And this is a target we always try to achieve, is to make sure that whatever we do, we come to the end of the project, and we have done something which is within the values that this company has. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's no easy way to answer that question, but I think that you have to live the values, and that's it. You know, every organization has its values, and you have to live them in every action you take.
So if I put my trainer hat on, from a training perspective, one of the things that I do to learn organizational culture before I enter the doors of an organization is to pay attention to the kind of rapport that my point of contact is sharing with me, right? Or the rapport that I observe between people within the organization. How is it that they interact, right? What is the tone of that conversation, if you will, right? How can I tap into how they're speaking to one another, whether it's literally language or how they're speaking to one another to communicate in ways that they can hear, that resonate with them, right? Another way, for example, is to look at, for companies that have financial documents readily available, right, to look at how they're spending their money, right? Because in some cases, we can see what's priority to people, what their bottom line is by how they spend their money, right? If I know how they're spending their money in some cases, I can understand what's important to them, right? And what they may be spending their money on may be very different from the espoused values of the organization, may be different from what I'm hearing in my scoping conversations as I listen to what people are saying vis-a-vis what they're spending, right? So that's another way that I tap into that when I'm, you know, on a short term, trying to get to know an organization so that I can go in and be effective.
Yep.
Any other comments on that in terms of organizational effectiveness or otherwise? We have, again, a few more minutes if you'd like to stay on. We welcome your questions and your comments. Again, I open the floor for anyone else that would like to share just now. And thank you for the questions that you've shared already.
Hi, Meili. I just like to say goodbye because I need to leave now for another meeting. So I wanted to thank Paulo for sharing all this knowledge with us. It was really valuable and very interesting. And thank you so much to you for organizing everything, as always, so efficiently. And thanks everyone.
Thank you, Karina.
Bye bye.
Bom dia para você. Obrigado.
Bon dia to you too.
Yeah. So I just use a silence as one of my training tactics to see who would speak. And silence is another thing that we might use in our organizational change process, especially as leaders. Allow the silence to be, right, and see what emerges from that silence. Right. We have one more comment here via chat. We have another thank you to Paulo and Meili and others. Thank you as well, Masako, for being with us. If there are no more questions for now, then we will log off. Of course, you know how to get in touch with us, www.intercultures.de. You can also email me directly at brown@intercultures.de. You have my email address from when I invited you or sent you the invitation. We appreciate you being here with us today. And again, we will be sharing this with others who would like to connect with this webinar asynchronously after the fact. Goodbye. Thank you so much for your time, for your questions, and we encourage you to lean into the challenge of leading and to leading intercultural change. Until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
You take care.
And you.
Good evening to you in Shanghai.
Yeah, enjoy. Bye-bye.
Yeah, good morning to you. Have a good day.
Yes,
okay, thank you.
Is it getting light?
No.
You get some light in the meantime?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Good. So you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Nice to meet you. And you.
Bye-bye. We're ending the meeting now, Paulo. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We are the last ones?
Yes, we were the last ones. I will end the recording, and I will call you back.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you. Bye-bye.